You're listening to the Snob OS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs. Hey, this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
And yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech.
And welcome to the Snob OS show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. Welcome back, everybody, to this week's show. Before we hop into it, we definitely want to give a quick shout out to you, our listeners, and to our Snobba supporters. If you want to get in on some extra content, access to our Discord channel, all that extra good stuff, you can head on over to patreon.com/snobawestcast. Also, before we get into it, don't forget to like, share, and check us out on social media. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. So this particular story happened a couple weeks ago, but I believe it was when we were off for spring break, and I had to bring it back because it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is not too surprising. So a couple of weeks ago, Apple chartered 6 cargo flights to transport approximately 1.5 million iPhones from India. So they did this strategically before the Trump tariffs were supposed to take place. We know that these tariffs have been bouncing back and forth. You put them on, take them off, put them on, pause them, 100%, 125%, 245%. You never know what's going on in these crazy people's heads. But they were like, so yeah, we're going to try and get a jump on this. And instead of shipping them freight on boats, we're going to just put them on some planes straight from Foxconn, I believe it is, and say, yeah, we're going to drop them off real quick so we have some inventory that we don't have to pay this extra money on, because your boy is out here wilding out on these tariffs. So what they were able to do with assistance from Foxconn, and they were able to get expedited through quote unquote the green corridor customs clearance from the primary airport in this particular part of India. And the whole point of this, like I said, was to avoid the tariffs. At this point, when they did this shipment, the tariffs were at 125%. So do you think Apple was like trying to like, let me get on the good foot real quick because we don't know what's going on? Do you think we may see some more of this rather than using the typical shipping freights, switching to cargo? I mean, to air cargo.
So this is one of those, I call it Martha Stewart issues. For those who don't remember, Martha Stewart was convicted and went to prison for insider trading. And basically insider trading is if you, as a major stakeholder or shareholder, get insider information from the company or is connected to the company that enables you to make moves prior to, or make moves that other people couldn't make in order to save money. That's insider trading. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong.
It's illegal.
It's illegal. You go to prison, right? This is almost kind of that a little bit. While not illegal, Apple pulls some major strings.
Yeah.
With the manufacturing
Indian
plant,
government,
with the airport, probably with the Indian government, like you mentioned, to get those iPhones out before the tariffs hit, so they can be on U.S. soil and then distributed however Apple wants to distribute it. That's not illegal. But it ain't even insider trading, because
it's just frowned upon.
Well, it's not even frowned upon. It's Trump has said tariffs, right? Through his campaign, even when he was elected, tariffs, right? So same thing with the Martha Stewart thing. If I'm Martha Stewart and I get a little bit of information, it's going to be very, very hard for me to sit on it if that means I'm going to lose money, right?
Yeah.
If you tell me, hey, Apple's going down, sell your stock. And I'm like, how you know? And you'd be like, well, I work in supply chain and Apple, that's insider trading.
Yeah.
But you can't expect me not to be like, oh yeah, thanks for that tip. But that's insider trading. So I'm not gonna do nothing and to watch my portfolio shrink. It's
Right.
almost damn near impossible. So
Yeah.
most people risk it and just try to hide the fact that they got it from inside.
That they knew. Yeah.
It's
And
kind
the
of
funny
same
thing is, Martha Stewart posted about it. She was like, well, when I did it, I went to jail. And I was like, tell her, Martha.
Right. So while not illegal in Apple's case, they moved heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Jumped to the front of the line.
Yeah.
Greased some people's palms, made some agreements, made some deals, did their magic. Unethical maybe, but immoral probably, illegal no.
No.
To get them iPhones out of India. So, and I can't think of any CEO company that wouldn't
do the same thing.
Because it ain't like this is brand new. Trump has been talking about tariffs. All right. So you about to run these tariffs? All right. Let me get my stuff in a position.
Let me get my ducks in a row.
Right. So again, you can frown on Apple all you want to, but this is what companies do.
Yeah. And the thing is, in this article that I found from Reuters, they said that this company called Rosenblatt Securities, they basically did a projection, and based off of the tariff tax rate, this iPhone 16 Pro Max is going to run you about $1,600. With these tariffs at just 54%, that would mark up the price of the $1,600 phone overnight to $2,300. And they were like, look, we're not going to eat this. So we're going to have to pass it on to the people who have to buy these things. Now, we don't want to do that because that affects our bottom line. But at the same time, we can't eat this. And then they're weighing all these things of, how are we going to make this work? Because we're going to get less customers and all this thing. All this to say, in the infamous words of the Players Club, you got to use what you have to get what you want. And and that's what Apple did in this case.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised more companies are not trying to do it either.
Yep. And it looks like when I did the show notes, I put the other Apple stories in the wrong section. So let me just move those real quick. But yeah, so the next thing in Apple, we've already seen how the sports gaming industry has definitely taken everything by storm. You can't go to any sports app or anything like that without saying something about gambling. This isn't particularly that, but to me, that's what I want to get your opinion on. So Apple Sports, similar to Apple News, Apple Food, all of the other type of built-in Apple features, they've decided to bring game cards to the Apple Sports app. So typically, they're saying that this allows Apple users to basically better engage, give like a pretty view or output when you're talking sports with your friends or other people online. And what this game card sharing feature does is that it allows users to generate and share a visual scorecard for the supported leagues, whatever is in Apple Sports, across messaging. So that means your iMessage, your SMS, whatever text apparatus you use, and social media. And so the way the feature works is for any upcoming live or completed game, you're able to get a tappable image. So basically you could touch it, it moves, it does things that shows the headline scores, and you can open it. And when you tap on that, it opens it directly into the Apple Sports app. So to me, that gives you that's bringing you back into the ecosystem, kind of giving people the opportunity, well, forcing people to use Apple Sports. Since it is a relatively new app and they probably want to get the engagement up, this is the way to do it. So on the surface, it seems like, hey, this is a cool way to, engage with your friends, your family, whomever, and share your favorite sports, what's going on. If you want to do a little bit of my team beat you, that type of thing, you can do that, but it comes in a nice, pretty package. And that's cool. That's fun. But where I kind of want to go with this is, do you see Apple Sports or Apple itself getting into the sports gambling space? Like, this may be kind of like a lead in to kind of test the water to see how that works.
It could very well be a lead in. Not more importantly, I think initially this is more of a lead in to, like you mentioned, keep people in the Apple ecosystem. Like, for instance, if I'm in the sports app on my phone and I want to tell you about the latest Lakers Timberwolves score, normally what people do is screenshot and then send it via text message. They'll screenshot, upload it to social media, whatever the case may be. With this, it shares more of an interactive view of whatever you're viewing at the time, whether it's the box score, whether it's the, for instance, if we're talking about the NBA, we're talking about the NBA standings, who's coming out the West, who's coming out the East, the brackets, the box score, any sort of highlights that's in the sports app. Again, I'm not terribly familiar with the Apple Sports app, but if they do get to or are showing like short little clips, you'll be able to share those, and the recipient will click on those shares, and it'll open up the sports app, which keeps people in the ecosystem. I think that's the primary driver for that. I don't know if Apple ethically, their ethical stance on things, while you can download betting apps, I don't know if Apple directly is going to get involved in the sports gambling because of they're kind of uppity, they're kind of bougie, they're kind of they're kind of like,
highbrow.
Right. They don't let, for example, for those who don't know, Apple doesn't let bad guys in movies use iPhones to do bad guy stuff. Fictional characters, fictional situations. Apple's like, nah, we ain't doing that. Yeah. We don't want to be seen as the tool that the bad
facilitator
guys use.
Of bad things.
So if you take that into sports gambling, sports betting, it's legal, but morally and ethically, people have problems with sports betting, sports gambling. And I don't know if Apple's going to wade in those waters, to be honest.
Interesting. I just thought when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is kind of neat. This is kind of cool. And then my mind immediately went to, because everywhere it's the sports gambling, it's on the sports shows, it's everywhere. And I was like, I wonder if this is where they're going. It'll be interesting to see, but you make a great point that Apple is a little bit too snoots, a little bit too snooty to wade into the underbelly, the dark side of sports,
the seedy world of sports betting and gambling.
Right.
So we say.
Right. But who knows? Money talks. And if these tariffs keep going, they might like, look, we got to go over there too, because we got to get this money. The last story that I have for the lowdown, the EU and this Digital Markets Act is back. And we've talked about this a few different times. We talked about, I think, last month or the month before, about some of the changes that the EU was trying to force on Apple. They've ratcheted up a notch. $570 million US has been fined to Apple by the EU Commission for violating aspects of the Digital Markets Act, regarding the App Store and what they're calling its steering policies, specifically as it relates to the commission part of it, by charging 17% on external purchases instead of allowing a free direction.
To get more in the weeds a little bit, what the EU is specifically saying is Apple needs to let developers let their customers know that you don't just have to download buy purchases from the App Store. You can also download it from the third developer's website. You can go to a third party link, that whole thing. Apple's been fighting it. Now the EU is like, yo, now we got to find y'all because y'all still ain't letting the developers do what we said that y'all need to let the developers do.
And the EU is ordering Apple to remove technical and commercial restrictions on this particular provision, and expecting Apple to, make some additional changes to the App Store rules to basically say what they want Apple to put in writing, basically, and put in their rules that you don't have to just buy the purchases inside the app. And you can buy them outside of the app.
Right. And what Apple was doing was companies that were just doing it, like, Snob OS, we decide, hey, we're going to let our customers know that you can be a snobist by going to our website and clicking it that way versus going in the app and doing it within Patreon, right? What Apple has been doing was they was normally not taxing people. They wasn't taxing people with commissions. But then if we then go out and say, all right, y'all can download this another way, Apple was like, all right, cool. Now we're about to tax y'all.
Because this was, and I think, wasn't this in response to them before trying to do this same thing? Because there were a couple of different lawsuits regarding the App Store. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if this is new and I have to do a little bit more digging, but this was kind of like some of the fallout to say, okay, if you want us to do this, then you got to pay me to do this.
Right. And Apple was letting people slide until they started,
coming for him and be like, you got to do this.
Yeah. So Apple, basically what EU wants them to do is allow developers to let users know that they can purchase outside of the App Store without Apple taxing them an additional 17 or so % for doing so. The EU's like, nah, man, if you want to tax people within the App Store, do that. But don't tax people inside the App Store and then add some more on it when the developers say, hey, you can also download.
You can.
Yeah. Right. You can also download this by going to our website. It's like, come on, Apple, I get it. But the EU, they have, I don't want to say cash cow, but the EU is coming after Apple on multiple cases.
Yeah.
This one,
they're not going after other people like this.
Right. Some of the other ones have been not frivolous because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a giant multi-billion-dollar corporation, but some of the other the charges have been kind of frivolous. But I think the EU, if they want to really stick it to Apple, I would stick with this one and focus on this one because this one is like, it involves more people than just the EU, just the EU's customers and just Apple. This is third-party developers. Yeah. These are all the different apps that you see on the phone. They could probably
make this one stick.
Yeah.
As some of the other one, it's like, right. I don't know. This is kind of far-fetched. You are really reaching for the stars, my friend. I don't think this is going to work out the way you want it to. But in this particular case, they might have something. And in this article also, it says that the EU did say that, hey, some of the changes that Apple did make are sufficient. And it's like, okay, this is kind of going in the right direction. But this App Store and this third party interaction, they like, nope, we're not letting this go because no, we don't want to.
Because what they also are trying to do is get Apple to third party app stores. And they're trying to tie it all together. And Apple's like, nah, we ain't doing that. But we'll do that. We'll listen to you on this part. But this part, and the EU's like, nah, you got to do it all. So we'll see.
What's going to happen is if the EU keeps messing with Apple the way they are, I don't know how big the business is for Apple in the EU, but I don't
Apple
know.
probably doesn't want to lose any customers,
Yeah.
but my guess is they are, as a result of this. If I was running Apple,
Yeah.
I would be like heavily working very, very closely with India, very, very closely with some of these other countries that haven't
Yeah.
fully adopted the iPhone. Again,
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't saying go into communist areas. I ain't saying go with no dictatorships or whatever the case may be. But I'm pretty sure Apple's like, what other markets can we tap so
Yeah.
we don't have to be so hard pressed
Yeah.
about losing some people or losing potentially you losing
Yeah.
some customers from the EU because of not compliance and whatever the case may be.
Yeah. And I'm sure they have economists on their team that are doing the market research. They're running the numbers to say if we drop this or if we give them a scaled down version, a bare bones version, what that money looks like, if we get rid of them or if we replace them. And, literally what you just said, that's kind of my approach when it comes to elections. Instead of people trying to go for people who not gonna come to your side, go to the people that you're not tapping into. It's a whole other market. It's over 300 million people in this country, and about 150 voted. So you got a whole nother half of country that you could tap into. And to me, what you're saying is it's the same thing. Tap into some other markets that may be able to kind of make up the difference and what you'd be missing in that business.
Right.
If you
I ain't saying
decide to like pull out from there.
right. I ain't even saying Apple pull out. I'm just saying Apple be like, all right, man, look, listen, y'all do what y'all got to do. We be all right over here. We
Yeah.
understand if y'all decide to make it. We ain't gonna make no decision. We really
Yeah.
want you as
Yeah.
customers. We really love our European Union customers and all of the interesting things they do on their phones. But I mean,
Because right now it's like we got Apple over a barrel because, they need our business. But if they
Right.
show that they don't, and if their citizens be like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I can't use an iPhone?
and
You want me to
that's
use an
where
Android
and that
or
well
a Google or
again,
something? It's like, what? No.
if Apple wants to be smart, they were really not smart. If they want to be strategic, they would make sure that the European Union customers know what's at stake.
What's going on? Yeah, absolutely. All right, that is going to wrap it up for the lowdown. We're going to head over to Second String where we talk all other tech. All right, it looks like sending your nudes is going to get a little bit safer over at Google. Google is rolling out a previously announced feature called sensitive content warnings in Google Messages. This is specifically for Google ecosystem in Google Messages. And basically what this feature is going to do is use an on-device, this is already on your device, AI that automatically blurs potentially nude images and provide users with what they're calling a quote speed bump prompt before viewing. So basically this feature is disabled by default on adults on unrestricted phones, but it's enabled and you can toggle it on and off for teenagers or supervised kids. And all this is done through their version of the family share plan.
Screen time or whatever.
Yeah. And basically, this is going to say, like, it's going to give you that, are you sure? Because, when you unsubscribe for something, it's like, are you sure you want to leave? Are you sure you want to do that? This is basically giving you that, are you sure option. So, if you're accidentally sending something that you didn't intend, or to, make people give another pause before they send something potentially salacious or randy, if you want to call it that, to someone else.
So I'm curious about this one because I'm reading into the story and I'm not going to read all of it, but for people, this is for Android users, Google users, for people who carefully control the software installed on their mobile devices, the sudden appearance of a package called Safety Core was an affront to the sanctity of their phones. While you can remove the app it's listed, you can go down into the roots and get the safety core feature deleted. It doesn't take up much space and won't be active unless you enable sensitive content warnings. Now, at least safety core is doing something. This is the important part that I want to talk about. According to 9 to 5 Google, safety core allows your device, to do basic AI image classification so it can identify images that may contain nudity. If your phone spots such an image arriving in your inbox, it will apply a blur filter and present, like you mentioned, the speed bump that lets you, the end user recipient, decide if you want to see said image. You can also choose to block the number that sent it. Sensitive content warnings also remind users who are sending nudes that they may want to rethink that. Like the incoming image speed bump, you can dismiss the one and continue sending unimpeded. It's a lot like Apple's identically named sensitive content warning. So here's what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
It seems as if Android and or Google created this tool or feature or piece of software called Safety Core. And it lets the device, basically, the way I understand this, scan your phone for all of your images to learn the type of images that you have, so it can then decide whether or not an image that you're getting or an image that you're sending is nudes or whatever the case may be. That sounds a lot like what Apple got in trouble for their whole CSAM image scanning. People was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me Apple's going to be scanning my pictures on my phone in order to detect which ones may have child nudity, those things. It ain't like adult nudes. It's like Apple was searching for like kitty
for
porn.
Child exploitation.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody was up in arms. Wait. I don't want my phone. I don't want Apple all in my business. And Apple was like, all right,
we're trying to help y'all out.
Yeah. Apparently I don't like this. I thought privacy and security was y'all thing, but I guess not. Well, they kind of backed off of it. Am I tripping? Or does this sound a lot like that? And I'm curious as to how Android Google users are going to feel about potentially their device scanning their pictures in order to decide whether or not this is falls under their sensitive content warning. I'm curious. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there. Y'all tell me, am I wrong? Is this different? Is this the same? What's going on here? Because I would assume Apple users would be like, bet, because I don't want my kids. I don't want anybody randomly sending me stuff. And if this software, this tool, this feature is going to scan my phone to identify the stuff and to make sure that I know that it's sensitive, that sounds like a win. But am I wrong?
I don't think you are, but I'm trying to like kind of scan the comments to kind of see what people are saying. They don't seem too happy because it's kind of like that whole, you're scanning my phone.
Okay.
You're looking at my thing. So this is kind of what I'm getting from some of the comments. Again, this is a small population, but they don't seem to be too much for it. But it sounds like this is already active in the Google ecosystem, and it's for incoming messages. And basically what this new feature is it flips it, and it's for outgoing messages.
Okay, got it.
As well.
Okay.
So right now, if someone sends you something, it's like, ooh, this looks like it might be something. You sure you want to open this and look at this? Similar to if you are on Twitter and there's an image that pops up and it's like they give the sensitivity warning, that type of thing. So it sounds like they originally had this for the incoming. And it seemed like people was okay with this because it's out there and they're using it. Now, the question is going to be, like you said, is on the flip side, when it's scanning what's already on your phone for the outgoing. But I presume if someone is emailing or sending, that is doing that same thing, right? Before it gets to the sender. So we're back after a temporary power outage because it is thundering and lightning near my house. So we're going to pop right back in. We were wrapping up the conversation on Google's current safety core feature and what they are implying this new feature now. So it's basically they were coming at it from one direction, basically protecting users who were getting sent content that may be a safety issue, sexual in nature maybe, to now they're going to do this sensitive content warning on the other side. So it's basically saying to you, hey, do you want to send this? But
on a side note, a little bit of a tangent. I don't get the appeal of sending nudes. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm too old. I don't know. But I think the ultimate what the worst thing could happen if somebody were somebody other than the recipient seeing those, it scares me enough. I would assume. I'm guessing that's what it is.
Yeah.
But people, that don't stop people from firing them joints off. And it could just be somebody you dating. It could just be somebody you're interested. It ain't even got to be your wife or your husband or your partner. It ain't got to be somebody you in a long relationship with.
It's somebody you met at the Chick-fil-A who you thought was cute.
And you firing them off. And it's like, hey, man, if y'all like it, I love it. But you ain't about to catch me sideways. No, sir.
I'm too scared for that because that you piss somebody off and they got a history of your things. It's on OnlyFans. It's on the.
It's just on social media.
It's just on social media. It's
especially
on
if they
the
jaded.
internet.
Right. Especially if they are jaded. You know, that whole revenge porn thing.
Oh yeah.
And people still fire them off.
They do.
I'm like, nah, y'all got it. Y'all, this is young man's game. This is young kid's game. I ain't got it.
I'm a scaredy cat. Too scared. Not gonna do it because you're not about to have me out here in these streets like that. No, thank you very much.
Now, if you in a suggestive swimsuit or or your workout outfit, or you got the dress with the slit I get
very
it.
revealing. Yeah,
I get it. I get that. But butt naked out here,
naked,
not your boy.
Like the way you came into the world, nah,
not your boy.
Y'all can keep it. For those of you who are that confident in people and in your relationships, you know what? I don't have that kind of faith or trust in people, and I'm glad that you have that. I'm glad you found that.
If you want to send spicy texts, the verbally. And y'all talking crazy.
Yeah.
That's cool,
but not images and videos.
Right?
Are you kidding me? That is insane. But people do it, and they be proud of it. It's like, ooh, I got a whole folder of fire nudes that I'm just saving, and they have it, in the hidden where you have to have a password or whatever, or you have to do your Face ID. But we've seen the leaks that came out from all the celebrities who their iCloud got hacked. I'm not
your
trusting.
iCloud didn't get hacked. You sent those to somebody and they was like, save.
Yeah. Oh, now you don't want to talk to me? I got something for you. No thanks. God bless for those
that's
of
what
you.
That's what we was talking about in the pre-show about Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
You giving them the ammunition. Don't give them no ammunition.
Don't make it easy.
Right. Don't make it easy.
Best of luck to those of you. The best of luck to those of you who are out there sending your fire nudes off and Google Messages. This may help you take a beat before you send them. But yeah, good luck is all I got for you. Good luck. That is going to wrap up Second String. We're going to head on over into For the Culture, where we talk about what's going on around us, indirectly or directly. So a couple of weeks ago, Black Mirror, the new series for the new season for Netflix, is very popular. Black Mirror came out, and if you've been living on the rock and you don't know about Black Mirror, or you don't have Netflix, or you're not in the conversation about it, they have these very what used to be dystopian episodes. It's like an anthology. Each episode is different. They don't link to each other. It's usually taking on some societal concept and basically
It's heavy tech based.
heavy tech focus, and it's usually, previously it was like, oh my God, this is amazing, this will never happen, to now this is like, I think they had like a really long gap between the season 7 and season 8 because shit was too real. It was like, you over here playing, but this is actually out here happening. So we're gonna chill a minute because it's a little too real. So after the episode came out, someone posted, it got a lot of discourse on social media. I think it ultimately had like almost 40 million views on Twitter. And it's from the user Mark_K. And he says, forget, quote, Black Mirror. We need White Mirror, an optimistic science fiction show about cool technology and how it relates to society who's making this. And he basically took the image from the promo material for Black Mirror, and he basically did a happy version of that and called it White Mirror. And so he's basically saying, let's look at the positive sides of tech. And I wanted to have this conversation, like, is there a positive side? Would people watch the positive side? Because Black Mirror is like, it's like real life now. It's not sci-fi or far-fetched. This is stuff, some of the stuff is actually happening. I think it's just a commentary on where we are on society. And I think some of the stuff, it's coming. It's not here yet, but it's almost here. We're on the precipice, if you will, of it coming to market.
So there are stories of good news stories that come out all the time as it relates to technology. We cover them all the time. When some dude is out in the middle of nowhere, got lost, running out of food, running out of water, uses his phone, his watch to call SOS, and, you know, the cavalry shows up, right? We've seen stories of bikers getting chased and, you know, people getting kidnapped and
car crashes
and people falling and all this technology is like literally saving our lives, right? That stuff is out there, and I'm assuming that's what he's alluding to, stories like that, to where technology actually is helping versus making things worse. In some of the other, well, all of the other Black Mirror episodes, people ain't gonna watch it though.
And that was my thing. Who's gonna watch the happy? Especially when we're living in the sad and we're seeing it. I don't think anybody wants that. Because
so it's yes, you're right. I think that's just because it's trendy for this, like you said, dystopian, post-apocalyptic, you know, gloom and doom. You know, the most popular shows on TV, the what is the Last of Us? What is that show?
Last of Us. It's really good.
What's the other one? Walking Dead. You know, all the zombie, all the zombie movies point to, you know, this is where we're going and those monstrous hits, right? So the production companies are like, all right, why do we have to gamble, for lack of a better term, with putting something out that is untested versus all these other things, so where we can just wash and repeat. Let's get some money. Let's get it in. Let's do the concept. You know, let's tug on people's fears and let's get this money, right? The positive side ain't really tested. We don't know. So really somebody would have to go out on a limb and literally try this to see if people would be receptive.
Watch a season of this.
Ain't nobody trying to take a risk to record it and edit it and publish it. And ain't nobody gonna watch it because we are hooked on, oh no, disaster. You know, I'm not saying we're lost, but somebody would really have to go out on a limb to do this. And it would have to take a while for people to be like, you know what? You know, balance. We don't like balance.
And if you think about like some of the feel good stories that we see on like your Good Morning America or your CBS This Morning or whatever, you have those kind of sparsely spread out, and it makes people feel good. They talk about it for 5 minutes and they go back to what they were already talking about. I don't think like I said, I don't think people are going to watch this.
It would have to be very, very compelling, and they have to do a very, very, very good job at marketing, advertising rather. They would have to pull out all the stops to get all the influencers, all the little cute little ways. You think of all the cute little ways Severance, promoted their show by getting people to do all the actors, the cast to do all kind of weird things.
And Severance was dark.
Right. And Severance is dark, but they would have to really
put that level of effort of marketing
to get that swell for people to watch it, because it's working for like Sinners, right? Sinners just came out, and it's new. It's while it's a vampire movie, it's new at who's the cast. It's new. The concepts behind it are new. The fact that it's completely shot, directed, and casts Black people. And it's making a ton of money. That's new. Right.
And they didn't think it would do this. And then when it started making money, they started kind of poo-pooing on it.
Right. So all that to be said, is something new can be done, but you really got to get people behind it in order for it to work.
Yeah. And good luck with that, especially in this market. Okay. Let's head on over for the hookup to get our tech tip of the week.
All right. I think this has been a argument that can be now put to bed. That tells the story of a TikToker who went into the Apple store, again, with a grain of salt, because the dude is a TikToker, right? So the story goes, he goes into the Apple store. He's getting some random thing fixed on his phone. And some other person, a passerby, another customer says, hey, you don't have to close all the apps on your phone. And then the TikToker's like, I can't believe it. And then the Apple store employee that's supposed to be helping him chimes in and says, yeah, that's right. The phone takes up more resources to close and reopen those apps versus you just leaving them open. And then, of course, a story called Wind, and even Apple chimed in and kind of explained what happens when you leave the apps open. And basically what they said was iPhone apps will be set to a suspended state, meaning they're not actively in use, open, or taking up system resources, but will be, quote, in an efficient standby mode to help you. So the thought process is, if the app is just frozen, it's not sending, it's not receiving, it's not transmitting data, it's not using up energy, battery life. When you close the app, the iPhone has to take resources to power it down. And when you open it back up, the iPhone has to take resources to power it back up. The data has to connect, all the things. So my tip for the week is, if you are concerned about data, about battery life, about power, then maybe you just want to leave the apps open. Now, having said that, the power and data that it takes is very nominal. It ain't like half of your battery is going to die if you constantly closing apps. So you may, depending on what kind of phone you have, depending on the number of apps, depending on the stuff you do on your phone in general, those things may take away more resources than you just closing apps. But if you are concerned about it, I guess the old wives' tale of make sure you close all your apps. Because I was one of those people. Like when I'm talking to my family, talking to my wife, I'm like, close all those apps because your phone is tripping, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe I should start telling people, hey, don't touch your apps. Leave them where they are. Let's figure out the app that's causing the problems and just close that one. So that's my tip for the week. If you are concerned about data loss, if you're concerned about battery drain, no matter how many apps you have open, leave them open. Don't close them down, because your iPhone takes more time and more resources, shut them down, and then have to bring them back up, versus you just leave it open and it stays in this frozen state, as Apple quotes it.
Interesting, because I still like to close them because I don't like to have all those apps open on my phone. And
Right.
what am I doing? I'm just eating up my battery apparently because I don't like the chaos of having all the apps just up there, just doing their own thing. Nope, nope, nope. So yeah, maybe I'm doing a disservice to my battery life.
Maybe.
Anyway, keep that in mind. All right. Hey, that's going to wrap up the show for this week. We definitely want to thank you for tuning in. Brother Tech, where can the people find you?
Sure, you can find me all over the internet at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH.
And you can find me at Tech Savvy Diva all over the internet. Again, if you want to connect, to comment, to share, and to support our show, you can head on over to snobblewestcast.com to get all the details. You can also follow us on social media at snobblewestcast. Until then, we will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.